here? Okay, excellent. All right, welcome everybody. Before I do the official, formal start of this meeting, I just have to say one quick thing. I drove into this parking lot tonight with a massive smile on my face because the grass is green. I'm not joking. I literally had a big smile on my face because, one, you can see the grass, two, it's green, and I am so thrilled to be on the other side of winter. So, if nothing else, let's start this meeting with a happy thought of green grass. Okay. Yes. Welcome again. Today is Tuesday, April 18th, 2023. It is 5:01 p.m. We are convened as the Provo City School District Board of Education. We're meeting at 280 West, 940 North in Provo, Utah. We will begin with a roll call. I am Rebecca Nielsen, Board President.
Jennifer Partridge, Vice President.
Tony Hall, Board Member.
Lisa Boyce, Board Member.
Meg Van Wagenen, Board Member.
Gina Hales, Board Member.
Terry McCabe, Board Member.
Eric Anderson, Business Administrator.
Keith Rattel, Superintendent.
Okay, excellent. And we welcome everyone else who is here with us today, either online or in person. Thank you everybody for being here. We will go ahead and begin with a, sorry, I'm waiting for my agenda to come up. I'm still working on that. A motion to convene.
I move we convene the study session.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Motion by Board Member Hales. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Hall, and we are now in our study session. And we will start with item number 4 on our agenda, the Board Handbook Training, and that will be done by Lisa Boyce today.
Okay. So I pulled out my board handbook. I had looked at this after I first got it and read through it and highlighted it. I remember at USDA asking a few people some questions and having them clarify some things, and then I admit it has been in my computer bag that they gave me at USDA until this time. I pulled it out and I thought, oh, I should have been rereading this now that I actually am doing this job, because I will say my eagerness, I have already made several mistakes. So as I was reading it through, I was like, oh, I should do that section. And then I would go to the next one and be like, oh, no, I actually need to read that section. So I just am going to start at the beginning, because I feel like it's probably if it's helpful to me as the new person, maybe it'll be helpful to some of you to just kind of revisit what you already know, but I am definitely still learning. So this is the first section that's titled Legal Status, Responsibilities, and Norms. So the legal status just briefly states that we are, as a board, elected, and we're a political subdivision of the state, and we derive our power from the state constitution and the acts of legislature. And I know so many of you followed the legislature so closely and helped some of us, that for me anyway, helped me understand so much about that process. But that's where we look to make sure that we're doing the right thing. Responsibilities. I'm just going to read. I know I have 3 minutes, and I might highlight a couple things. So the board has all powers assigned to it by law and regulation to meet its statutory responsibilities. So I'll start the first one. Keep confidential all issues discussed in executive sessions, including legal action, negotiations, personnel, real estate, and school security details. And open meetings handbook can be another person's board training. But already I was like, oh, there's so many times when I go home and I'm like, Dave Boyce. I'm like, oh, never mind. Can't talk about it. So just this reminder to me that this isn't the work we do, especially when it's in an executive session. That's not work we process with anyone. If people ask us, we can say, I'd love to share more about that with you, but I actually can't. And that's a part of our mandate as a board, is that we keep confidential the issues that are confidential, and they're confidential for reasons that matter. And so just to remember that picture. The second one, avoid conflicts of interest or the seeking of inappropriate advantage as a result of serving on the board. 3, refrain from promoting an individual agenda. Rather, study issues and make decisions that are in the best interest of the district as a whole. I know I came in and my first meeting stumbled all over myself, picking on things that I didn't even really know about, and it's sort of like, oh, this matters to me, I'm going to just bring it up, and that's okay, and you guys are kind, but I do think it's really important for us to remember that we need to take time, ask questions, and then make decisions that are in the best interest of more than just the thing we're most passionate about, but the whole district and our students. Next, endeavor to be on time. That's definitely for me. Prepare ahead of time. And I know we're working to get the information to us ahead of time enough that we can reasonably come in. I know a lot of us work all day on Monday, and so if I step away from work right now and there's a new document, I won't be prepared. So that's part of our work, is to make sure that we get the information there where we can review it ahead of time so we can prepare. Guard the public trust by spending district and school funds to benefit all children. Understand the distinctions between board and staff roles. So there's my apology number whatever to the staff and people that I've just like leaned in on or whatever. It says refrain from performing management functions that are the responsibility of the superintendent, business administrator, and staff. So that's a really good reminder to all of us to just, our job is to be here and to bring our voices and to listen and to make a decision and to govern through policy. But it's not beyond that. So I'm not going to send someone an email and tell you what to do or what you should or shouldn't do. I can communicate with Keith, and Keith can help me, direct me, so that I make sure that if I have a question, he's always been supportive of helping me get that answered. But it's really important, I think, for this board to be facilitators who move the boat forward, that we understand the distinction between our roles and the staff. Understand that authority rests with the school board as a whole and not with individuals. So lots of people have asked me about a lot of things, and I'm trying to remember to say, I can tell you kind of my point of view on this. But, and then participate in professional development. I learned so much at NSBA, and I was so grateful for the chance to be there. It really helped kind of me find a center. And then I know we're almost out of time. Last one, under norms. Board members will keep learning and achievement for all students as the primary focus. I underlined it before I started. I need to remember it again. We can get in the weeds, but everything we do, it has to be about learning and achievement of our students. Be considerate of others and not dominate airtime, which I might be doing right now. Represent the board with dignity and integrity. It's really important that, we're congruent with what we say and how we act and how we represent the board when we're outside of this room. Treat fellow board members with respect and consideration through civil discourse, honesty, and respect, especially when there are disagreements. I've really appreciated when people have come to me and said, can I ask you more about that? When they didn't necessarily understand or what I said didn't resonate. I'm grateful for that respect. And then respect, support, and uphold the final decisions made by the Board of Education as a body, even if in the minority. Maintain this respect when making appearances before external bodies and constituencies. And I started that ahead for myself, and I think it was so that right now I would really think about this. Any partnership we know can be undermined when I say, well, that was your dad's idea, and I never agreed with it in the first place. So yeah, it just undermines immediately what we're trying to have happen. So I think as a board, we should bring in and we should have different points of view. We have definitely been experiencing this, but then when we make a decision, I think the thing to do is to say not, well, I didn't agree with that decision, but I'm only 1 out of 7, but to say, we took in a lot of different points of view, and we made the decision we think is for the best, and so we'll see how this goes. And to throw our support behind the decisions that we're making, to throw our support behind the district, and to make sure as we face outwards, we don't try to kind of make sure people like us by saying, well, I didn't like that decision, but that's what the board did. But I just really, to me, that one today was the one that I was like, okay, I just need to remember that it's not about me. It's about our schools and how we support them. So that's it.
Okay. Thank you so much for all of those great reminders, Lisa. We appreciate it. Okay, item number 5 on our agenda is the Sex Education Data Review with Lindsay Backus.
Hi, everyone. So this review happens every 2 years. Required in state code. So Bonnie, if you want to click the next slide. And just to kind of have an overview of everything that kind of falls under what the Sex Education Curriculum Review Committee is responsible for. So it is guided by the Utah Code under the health curriculum, which has to do specifically with health instruction, including human sexuality instruction, which is a parent opt-in requirement that also is included for 5th grade maturation, which is opt-in. It follows the standards that are part of the sex education curriculum, or I should say the standards for sex education. And then it also defines the roles of parents, educators, and the school board in the greater functioning of the health instruction. The committee is driven by policy 4020, so that has to do with curriculum and instruction. And it's also driven directly by 4023, which is specifically about health instruction in our school district. So just so you all know, because I know that there are many of you that are new. And next. So we're required every 2 years to bring to you the data that I will be sharing with you. It is specifically about teen pregnancy, child sex abuse, sexually transmitted diseases, and infections, and then the number of pornography complaints or other instances reported in the jurisdiction of the local school board. So here is our Utah County data. Now, when we met last week, I let the committee know there is a lag in the data because of the wonderful COVID. And there also was some great conversations that we had related to the data about what we don't know about specific age groups that you're going to see about teen pregnancy. Teen pregnancy is 15 to 19. When we get to STDs and STIs and HIV, there is no age associated with that data. I have put a request in to USBE that when they get that data from the state going forward, is it possible to disaggregate that? I don't know, but I have requested that. So in 2019, Utah County, we were at a rate of 7.6, and that's per 1,000 females, okay? And we can go to the next slide. In 2020, we decreased that rate to 5.7, so hooray. But that's the whole county. Now we're going to dive into specific to Provo. And when you look at this data, when I first saw this, I was like, I am not understanding the connection of what the locations are. So when we look at Provo/BYU, it is zip codes ending in 02 and 04. When we look at Provo West City Center, it's 01 and 03, and then East is 05 and 06. Okay? So, knowing that, we'll go to our next slide. So in 2019, Provo West was at 25.1, Provo East was at 6.7, and then BYU was at 1.7. And keep in mind, this is per 1,000 females ages 15 to 19. So we want to go to 2020. So we saw a decrease in West City Center to 22.6. There was also a decrease in the East to 4.9, a small decrease 1.4 in the BYU area. So one of the things that I could speak to the committee about was I've been a member of the Sex Education Curriculum Review Committee, I want to say probably since like 2007, 2008. And this was really promising data for me because back in 2017, we adopted Choosing the Best. And this is where we finally get to see the impact of changing our curriculum to better provide the education that kids need to have for their entire life. So it's informing their choices now, but also what about all of their choices that they will make throughout their lifetime and helping them make healthy choices. And that Choosing the Best is what is driving our 10th grade curriculum and our 8th grade curriculum. 10th grade also has their teen pregnancy prevention and the STD and STI prevention slides that were created with our parent committee that worked with the Utah County Health Department. And I am very proud of those because those are also used statewide, because it was driven by parents to create those in our community. So hooray, thank you parents. So before we go on, did anybody have questions about the data related to teen pregnancy?
Do we use that data to then maybe we can see there's an area of town that is more impacted than others? How do we use that data to?
So, and that's where we're using the data to help us go, what's the impact of our instruction? And I would love to see, okay, so what I want more data to go, what happened in 2021, and then what happened last year. I don't have that data yet, but that would be for us to go, is there something more that's required? And is it necessarily in the direct instruction to all students in 10th grade? Or are there identified populations that we need to target this with? And I know that in the work that our social workers do, they know students that have at-risk behaviors, and they are working closely with them in partnership with parents to ensure those students have the right tools and the right information to make healthy choices. Is it possible that we could see some changes in our 8th grade curriculum? Because that's where I believe there is more to be done. But currently where the standards differ from 10th grade to 8th grade. And so the standards haven't changed, and the standards drive the instruction that we have. And so that also is why making information available to parents on the community part of the website, which I have done to empower parents to have these conversations. So it's not just left to our health teachers to have these conversations, because the best place to have them is at home with parents. And that should be the first place they should occur. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I recognize you did not collect this data, but I mean, that's a huge jump. 4.9 to 22.6 versus 1.4 is a huge jump.
There is a big, between the east side and the west side.
So where do they collect that information from? Is it from health centers? Is it?
No, so this is reporting of births that happen like a birth certificate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions? No? Okay, let's go on. So, reports of sex abuse. This is also for the county. And so it's promising that there is a decrease. I am interested to see the 21 data and the 22 data to see, is that still a downward trend? And this is also, with this type of data, this is also what has just been reported. What about everything that hasn't been reported? And the next slide. So this is statewide, and I thought this was valuable to look at. Where is the whole state at before we dive into where are we at? And so here are the top STDs. And what has been occurring with rates from 2015 to 2019, and this is per 100,000 persons, and this is people of all backgrounds, genders, it's all mixed together. So let's go to the next one. So here we are with Utah County in 2019. So looking at HIV, 22, 3.4 is the rate. Chlamydia, we had 1,362. That's a rate of 209.1. Gonorrhea, 246 with a rate of 37.8. Primary and secondary syphilis is 5 and then less than 1. And then the early latent is 18 and 2.8. So this is where I also am a very strong advocate that if the only message in our sex education is we're trying to prevent teen pregnancy, that is the wrong message that we need to be giving our students, which is why having both the teen pregnancy and the STD and STI presentations, they go hand in hand. And it's not just only one, because we're helping kids identify healthy choices they make over a lifetime, not just here in 10th grade. So next slide. So this is just looking at chlamydia over time in Utah County. So we start here at 2010, all the way up to 2019, and it has almost doubled. So I'm interested to also see because 2018 is when we started teaching Choosing the Best. So I'm interested to see, like, our teen pregnancy data. Is that going to continue? Is it going to continue to go up, or is it going to start to decline? Because we have changed how we are educating students.
But this includes all the adults too.
Right, this is where, coming from the state, this is not connected to an age group like teen pregnancy is. This is everybody. Yeah. Which also is valuable information too, because the 20 here, you know, they were once upon a time our students too. Yeah. So next, this is gonorrhea over time, and here are the number of cases versus the rates. This is the over time, starting with 24 to 246. So not quite the same increase or the same infection numbers that chlamydia had, but still that is very concerning that in less than a decade it has increased very drastically. So, next slide. So the last data point that I have for you is our number of pornography reports and instances, and this is on district devices. I want to be clear about that. And this is when I first was gathering this data, 2019-2020, there were 147. 2020, 2021, there were 513, which is not surprising because we were fully on devices for a very long period of time. 2020 to 2022, 103. And then this year, we're only at 75. Here's the tricky thing about this. And as I have stepped into the role of facilitator at Timpanogos, we don't have control over non-district devices. And the number of pornography incidents that happen there. I can think of one where there was a ripple effect of the same videos sent out. That's the best way to describe it. The same videos that sent out that impacted I can definitely count on 3, but that's just the 3 we know about. What about all of the rest? And so that's the part of this that I'm like, but it's more than just the district devices. And that becomes so helping us communicate to parents how to empower them to help their students use their device in a productive and purposeful way that is not harming themselves and it's not harming others. And so having our NetSmarts or having our internet nights at schools become very, very crucial. Other questions?
Back to, oh gosh, what's leaving me? I had 2, so I'll do my other one.
Okay.
Do we know, like, in 10th grade, do a lot of students how many opt in as opposed to those that don't?
Most are, it's pretty rare for a student to opt out.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
My second question was, going back to 8th grade when you said that there's some work to be done, and obviously the standards are what drive that. So that means at a legislative level.
That's
correct?
a legislative level,
Okay.
yes.
Where those standards could,
Yes.
that's what they would need to change in order
Yes.
for us to be able to move
Yes.
the needle there.
Yes. Any other questions?
This is students only?
This is only students, yeah. Yep.
So did Chad not give you the finished numbers from last school year?
I actually get the numbers from JP.
Okay.
Yeah.
Since that only
I-
ended in March of last year.
I can definitely go back and get that. I'm kind of wearing a lot of hats right now, so I just focused on during this school year what has occurred, and that's where I stopped.
So I know that you mentioned that we don't get to look at home devices, and this is just what's on the school. Do we know what, 513 to 103 to 75 is a big decrease.
Mhm.
Do we know why there's a bigger decrease, which is all good, but...
I think Chad Duncan could definitely speak to that better than I could.
I think Bloxy has helped quite a bit,
Mhm.
actually, if you want to see what the decrease is, it's Bloxy. We have a long way to go with Bloxy and informing parents, and maybe Susan and I have been talking about this a lot, but I really think that attributes a lot to that decrease.
One of the other conversations I remember having was the instances where a student was not the one accessing what is on that district device. Because that's the other part of it too, is this is the district device, but we haven't identified if this was a student or adult or another adult in their household that was seeking to find that content. Chat.
I was just going to say, one thing to keep in mind too, JP has to do a lot of work to see if this is actually valid. Because a lot of times you go to a website and you know how things pop up on the side. He has to view intent. So a lot of work goes in on JP's side to actually correlate to that to an incident.
Yeah.
So just so you're aware.
Yeah. Thank you, Chad.
Yeah.
I know. Every time I'm like, JP, I know I'm asking you, this is a big ask, but can you take care of this again, please? So, yeah. Any other questions that you all have for me?
I don't have a question, but I just want to say I love that you are trying to use that data to look at what is the need and then what are the standards and how can we work with parents. I love that the parents' input helped you get to some content that needed to be there. And I like seeing the result of that. So thank you so much.
Oh, well, it was 100% the parents. So
That's
if you
great.
know Michelle Wages, she was a big driving force behind it.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Lindsay, besides all your hats,
Yeah.
we also asked you to do this very last minute, so we appreciate you putting this together very quickly.
You're so welcome.
Thank you so much. Okay. Item number 6, we have a policy review on parent engagement with Keith.
And I'm going to turn it over to Michelle Eldridge,
Okay.
who is the author of the policy.
Okay, what you have in front of you is a revision of policy, and I have the number right here.
7130.
Thank you, 7130. This is a revision of the parent engagement policy. Just for a little background on this, so this policy was written prior to the reauthorization of the Every Student Succeeds Act, which was revised with President Obama in 2015. With that revision, the federal law changed, and we now have to call parent involvement parent engagement, and there are some other rules along with that. So any federal funding under Title I, Title II, Title III, IDA, anything federal falls under this parent engagement policy. So once the federal law changed, the state then had to create a plan. That plan wasn't approved until 2018, I think 2019. It took quite a while, and then districts had time to revise their policies and change. So I'm giving you that background so you know this is something we do have to change, and we are a little bit needing to get it changed because we're a little bit behind, but they've given us time to make the right changes, and it's kind of taken a little while. So with that said, the revision, you've had this a little bit. I took it to the policy committee. They gave some feedback, and we're ready to bring it here to the board. So you have the revisions. I know it's a lot of revisions, a lot there. It meets all of the federal requirements, and the recommendation from the committee was to make this a general parent engagement policy, so to keep it for all schools, all schools. We had the option of making just a Title I parent engagement policy, so it kind of checked that box that we needed to, or make it for all schools, and the committee wanted it to be for everyone. So that's one reason for the revision, and then the second is making sure it completes all the federal requirements, which mostly you see in the red revisions. So some wording change from involvement to engagement is some change, and then defining what parent engagement means, and that comes straight from the federal law. Actually, all of this does. And then the second biggest, we took a lot out because it can be included in procedure. So then the second biggest change besides the revision of the policy in this part are the forms and procedures that go along with it. So Title I schools are required to have their own school parent and family engagement policy, a parent and family and school compact, and then required to do what's called a Title I annual meeting. So we have never had those in policy before, and we need to have those in policy so that those are common and meet the requirements. So the procedures and forms are all new in policy. They're not new to the schools. The schools have been following this format and following everything in the forms and procedure for the past 7 years, 5 to 7 years. So those aren't new to the schools, they're just new in the policy. So, any questions?
Michelle, from here, this, you at some point have to get this cleared with the State Board of Education office, right?
Correct.
So what has happened on that already to this point?
It's been pre-cleared by them, so I've shared everything with them. And in fact, they use our forms and procedures in their statewide training to other districts across the state. So they have pre-approved, we're good to go on their end. So, but that doesn't mean we can't make changes or suggestions. I can tell you if you want to make changes, what we have to keep in with federal law and what can't be. So if you have things, I can easily let you know, oh, that's something we can't change, or we can.
Any questions for Michelle?
Sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, so when I was looking at, I printed it out because I was having.
Yeah, it's big, yeah.
It's a lot. I love all the work you're doing though, and family engagement, I know, is one of the key indicators, right, for our students' success. So this is so awesome. I got a little lost in like colons and semicolons, which I know doesn't super matter, but starting from number 3 and moving through that next section, I guess the thing that I wasn't totally clear on is like 3A then would say identifying barriers, 3B would be the needs, and that doesn't matter.
So no, it actually 3 ends with just build the school's capacity for strong parental, yes.
Engagement. Okay,
And
so
then
I'm
yes,
just
the auto formatting when you're revising keeps it
I was just trying
correct,
to make it make sense
but
in
it
my
doesn't
brain.
make sense.
All right,
I've done the
thank
same
you.
thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So then it would go to number 4,
Which would
that
start with
blue,
conduct.
which
Yeah.
yep.
Okay, great.
That's right.
That's awesome.
Yep.
And then my one other question was just, I feel like early on in the policy, it talks about the importance of the annual review in order to make sure that we, that the academic quality is where it needs to be and we have effectiveness. And so I wondered, as we're looking at the annual review procedures and things, they identify barriers, they look at these needs, and they find some strategies. Where's the piece that looks at the measure? How will we measure whether or not this is impacting student achievement and school performance?
So in their protocols that they have with their school, with their councils that do that, I give them a tool that helps them do that. Whether it's
I don't need it here. I just wanted to kind of know
they have a
about that.
protocol for walking through they have to all meet with a committee. Most of them, it's their school community council. They just stop that meeting and have the next meeting. And they have a protocol for walking through all of that, including sharing the data and correlating that with their engagement at the schools.
That's great. Thank you. Thanks for this.
Yep.
Any other questions for Michelle? Okay, thank you.
No,
Wait,
but
I have one question.
Yes.
And I don't even know if this is, how relevant, but when we're talking parent engagement, do we need more inclusive language, like caregivers?
So
or is the families, is that kind of
we kept it to exactly what the federal law is.
Okay.
We can change it though.
I mean, just something that came to mind for me, but not like.
It came to the committee's mind that worked on this too.
Okay,
and in the end, we decided let's just stick with what's in the federal
like
law.
Keep it kind of just to
so
exactly
it's
what that is.
not our wording, I guess, was what their recommendation was. But that was a big discussion in the committee.
Sure, it was, right. Like I said, it came to mind.
But we
wasn't
still
like
can
I
if it,
I don't know if anyone.
There
has
was
any
a
thoughts.
lot of discussion too about the word family and why are we using family and that it should be other words. So there was a lot of discussion about those words. And in the end, the committee said the federal law says this. Let's go with what the federal law dictates. Terry, did you have?
Not for you,
Okay.
but
All right.
is the board policy committee gonna, I don't know if you guys have decided on first readings, second readings, 'cause this is a lot for people, for parents to read, and it's not just the policy, like, look at all of the attachments that they need to read. Like, I don't think we should approve this today. I think we should wait and do like a second reading next month. I don't know if it needs to even be on the study session, but if it, you know, we just have it on the business meeting.
So that was gonna be my next
This is a
comment as well,
lot.
is just that this is scheduled to be voted on today. It's item number 1 in our business items. In our business meeting, is there anyone that feels like they need a second reading, that we need to wait on that? Because we have talked about that.
To answer Terry's question, we kind of talked about it, and since we're new to having the committee and everything, we thought we'd kind of just
Feel it
take
out.
each one, right, as it comes for a while, and how people feel about it, and some policies are going to be quick and easy, and others are a lot more involved, so we thought if everyone feels comfortable that it's already been through the policy committee and you feel good about it, on those ones we can just do it the first time we see it, but on other ones that we feel are bigger to read through, or that we want more public eyes on it first, you know, I think it's fine to have 2 readings of it.
Like, there's 3 procedures and then 3 forms attached,
Mhm.
along with all of the changes on the actual policy.
Michelle, will it cause any problems if we do
Nope.
it in another month?
Mm-mm.
No,
I'm okay
That's
with
totally
it.
fine. One thing that you might, I could send you to if you need, it does, there are things, the policy is written right along to the law, and there is a list of things that have to be included. So I could send that to you if you want to see that, just so you can see. That's what the state used to approve it, so if you need that as part of the.
Does this need to be put in a newsletter for
Yeah, my
parents
question,
to
Terry, is are you
read?
thinking that you want for parents to read through this and be able to give their input on this?
Or at least be able to have access, easier access to it, because it's hard to find policies if you don't know where to find them. I mean, maybe it needs to be on the front page of the website, so people can,
family
at least
engagement.
for the next month, and people can have easy access to read through it for the next month.
Before we approve it so that they can have input?
If they wanna have input, sometimes people just wanna be able to read it.
I'm just gonna piggyback on that. I don't know if there's something that we could do for policies going forward, having a policy button on the front page saying, here's draft policies, so people can get them quickly. I don't know how hard that would be, Carrie.
We can find a way to do something that we did. And it's Rob and Josh that would be doing that work, so I'd want to reach out to them and see what their hesitation would be about placing the button, where to put that, but if it's something the board wants to do, we can look into that and get it done.
Do you need drafts after they've come to the board, or?
So
why-
after it's been through a first reading and we're ready
Okay.
to, like,
'Cause I'm like,
I
'cause
wouldn't
if
put
it's
it on
my
there until
draft.
after it's gone to a
Yeah.
first reading.
Like,
First reading
okay.
with
With
the full board.
Yeah.
All right.
And then it gets put on the webpage for a month and then.
For to give input.
Yep.
And I suggest it be a clean version, right?
I was
Without
just
all of
Yeah, I was
the-
gonna ask
will it
you
look
that. Do you
just
want-
like this, or will
Yeah,
it
do
be
you
a
want,
little bit more
'cause
reader
it's
friendly?
currently a policy, right?
I-
So I don't know if you want.
I would do it how we're gonna approve it.
Okay.
So without all the cross-outs
Yeah.
and the red and the blue, but just as.
I have
as
that
it
ready
would
to
be
go,
approved.
so that's
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, draft, revised, and right?
So my suggestion would be, if we're going to be getting feedback, let's make sure we couch that from the standpoint of we will accept feedback for consideration, because this is tied to federal law.
Federal law, that's right.
And there will be restrictions to what we can do with it. This will be different than a number of other policies that we'll do in the future.
I think that's great phrasing overall, though, because we can consider what the feedback is, but ultimately, if one person says it, doesn't mean we're on the same
Right.
page. We gotta consider
Right.
all the ideas that
And I
come in,
also
right?
think that it'd be good to have Michelle see that feedback before we talk about it next time, so she can tell you what works and what doesn't.
Right.
That's great.
Well, and that was kind of my question, just on this specific policy, I like what you're saying, Terry, but this may be a policy where it is written so close to what is required. Does it need, I mean, maybe could we move forward to approve it, and then we make sure it's accessible so parents understand what our engagement policy is? You know what I mean? Like, that's just a thought.
Make sure it's on the front page of the website so people have easy access to it.
Sure.
Since,
I mean, before we approve it, or even if we?
at least for the next month.
Okay, before approving it.
Yeah.
I have a tiny thing, it's so
Okay.
dumb. Line 39 on the procedures for Title I schools, just a line. It's just a spelling, it doesn't matter, but.
No, it matters. We've had a lot of eyes,
It's just
so I
like
hate that.
letters
That's
switching
embarrassing.
around.
Yes.
So it's not a big deal, but.
Procedures for what?
Procedure, coordinate, and a line. It's
Oh,
part of the.
yep, I see it.
Do you see
Yep,
it? It's,
yep.
it's.
So,
I actually Googled
it actually-
Algin.
yeah.
Just so you know what my brain was. I was like, I don't know that word. Let me look it up. And I was like, oh, that's not a word. So anyway,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Anyway,
good.
sorry
Thank
to.
you. No, you
bring
don't have to
that
be
up.
sorry. No.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you so much, Michelle. We appreciate you being here. All right. We have a construction update now from Derek Anderson.
Pull that. Thank you. Oh, I got it already. All right, so here's the construction update, what's been happening the last month. You,
Greg, tell me where it is. I can't see.
well, if you'll just click
You're
that,
on the top left.
that button right down there.
Oh, down.
That little, almost like a weird screen line. Bingo, that's it. Like a presentation line. All right, so Tint View High School is moving along very well. As you can see, they've got the bulk of the roof pretty much finished here at the top of this section. This connection wing here still is being built out, but it's online to be finished off. There's still no discussion. We press play on that video, Bonnie. But there's still no plan or discussion that this is behind schedule. So the plan is still open for the start of school. Okay. Right now they're in the process of making plans for moving from out of the old wing into this new wing, and coordinating that with our maintenance department.
And that would happen this summer?
That's correct.
3 days before school. That's going to be a tight window though, right? Is that
It's
what we're
going to be a tight
anticipating?
window.
A tight
It'll
window
be a
on
tight
that
window.
move? Okay.
They're going to try to get us clearance by August 1st to start moving everybody in.
So that would give us a couple weeks, actually.
Yeah. We won't have the final punch list done, but they're saying they're shooting for August 1st for occupancy.
And
so
when do teachers go back?
yeah, so I was going to say the
So the new
15th, but I
student
don't know.
orientation potentially actually enter the hallways of the new building then.
Did that already fly around and I missed a half of it?
Sorry.
I was writing stuff too. Can we play it again?
We were talking.
Writing things down and I wasn't
Play it
looking.
again.
So this is the bus loop. There's a piece to this. This is the bus loop that there's going to be discussion about later tonight with the capital request. The other piece of this, and we'll see if it actually gives us a little bit of a view of it. If not, I'll just rewind and go. But as you can see, they're moving. They've already got windows in areas of it. They're putting the finest, working their way, as you can see this way. This was all redone. That pouring. There we go. Thank you. That parking lot is the parking lot that we're talking about needing to be redone. As you can see, all of that equipment has been staged on that parking lot. It's been ripped up completely, and it was just never part of the original bid, right? And so it's needing to be redone. It's past its to life, and now after all of this heavy use, it's crumbling, and so it's just time to do it. And so that's on the list that you'll have later tonight. So that is Tim. Will you go to the next one?
Derek, before we move on, can I just ask you one question that you've already stated that I would really love restated for the public just in case?
Yes.
Because when I was hiking over spring break, a Timfu student that I was with said to me, "Oh, we're starting online because we're totally behind schedule." Like very assuredly, like she knew what she was talking about. And I think the rumor is still out there. So can we definitively say what we know right now?
There has
to be
been
true?
zero discussion of starting school at Timpview High School online at the next school year.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
And just to clarify,
Period.
Yes.
if we are not ready to move in the new building, we can
stay in the old building.
Correct.
So there would be no reason to move online.
That is correct.
Even if the building gets funded.
That is correct. We are
And
not going
that's
to
this
blow the
fall.
building up in the middle of the summer.
That's this fall, right?
That is correct.
August of 23.
Thank you so much. I just want to make sure everyone's very clear on that. Thank you.
Is everybody wanting to go back to that?
I sure hope not, but.
Students down there.
All right, we go to the next one. So shoreline. Shoreline, this one is going to be a little bit of a different view. This is from an east to west view flight. Normally what you see is a south as it flies north and then turns and heads east. So this is going to be a little bit different, okay? As you can see, there's the edge of the preschool right down here, okay? Now we're moving over into, this is the academic wings. You can see the walls are already starting to come up, okay? It's moving along very nice. All the rebar, you can see all the rebar in there as they're getting ready to pour those, the flat work there. They're going to actually give us a good view of this. But you can see they're working on all those interior walls and masonry, that's a lot of block work. I think at one point there was like 60 masons over there laying blocks. There's just a lot of block work going in. Here we're now moving past the academic section, and we're now getting over into
the yellow
the commons area.
Ground that we just
Those are, so when you pour concrete, okay, if it's poured in winter conditions, massive changes in temperature can weaken the concrete. Unfortunately, I know this because I used to pour concrete to put myself through college. And so what they do is they layer on tarps and coverings over the concrete to prevent those wild swings as concrete is curing, because what happens is you pour the concrete, there's a lot of moisture, it starts to harden. It will not hit peak hardness until about day 27 under optimal conditions. And so as it's cold like this, it takes longer for that moisture to work itself out. And so what they do is they put on tarps to keep things in a temperature in a place where it's not fluctuating so much, okay?
And that yellow section is like admin and offices and things, right?
I've been watching that yellow move as they've been doing the different sections of the building. So,
okay, but how about this yellow right now in current?
This yellow right here is exactly that entry admin area as you walk into the main entrance of the building.
Derek, you showed masonry work being done. Was that slowed down at all by the weather that we had?
It's had some slowdown, not as much of an effect here, but weather conditions at all of our properties are a factor. And you'll see that at the next video. You'll see how Wasatch is being impacted. And you can see all this is just tons and tons of rebar that they've got in here to tie all that together to give it strength. One of the things that we're working with in the city is this southwest corner of this property. There's some discussion about walking paths. It sounds like there was a meeting today with the Parks and Rec department, and they know about that area, and they're having discussions about improving that park and creating a pathway to let our kids kind of walk from that area down through there. Okay? So it sounds like that's on their radar, and they want to do something like that.
Everything's on schedule here?
Everything is definitely on schedule on this one. This one is, there's been no, I don't know of a single area really that's been pushed back at a significant enough level to even really cause any problems. So this project is going very smooth right now. You can see these already have, it looks like already the spacers for the windows already in, it looks like. So this one is moving quickly. Yeah, they're getting the membranes. That's the membrane for the roof, it looks like. Yeah. If you'll move to the next video, Bonnie. So this is Wasatch, and Wasatch, it's going to look like there's not much movement yet, but you'll see here with Wasatch that this one you can see the weather conditions are very apparent when we're building. Those walls are big.
They're coming along though. I feel like those are new since the last
They are higher. When you see all this water, right? And as we get up along this, you'll see a lot of water there, but you'll also be able to see through that all the water that, or how much farther they've been able to make on this, where they've actually started to wrap around the corner on that wall. And so the way each of these walls are is they're going to be about 16 feet high each, terrace back, 16 feet high, terrace back, and then 16 feet high. It's about 65 feet of wall, or sorry, around 50 feet of wall for those 3 levels.
Every one of my kids would try to climb that.
Well, absolutely.
The whole community just saw Wasatch is
Asking
worried
about
about this.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
they
I
keep
look
bringing
at
this
that, I know right where my kids are gonna go. I'm telling you, my oldest kids would make it, I've seen them get onto roofs.
But I mean, you can look at how big of a
So.
a cut that is right there. Like, so there's a lot of earthwork in this site, a lot of earthwork.
So I want to make an assumption, and maybe you can help me confirm if it's true or not, but a lot of this dirt work and like basically foundational work is going to take a long time, but as soon as that's good, the school should go up.
Much quicker. You
Much
see like
quicker
how
and
fast shoreline is going up?
Right. We should see, so this is just, okay. It's
Correct.
it's just going to take a long time. And it's going to feel like nothing's happening,
And
but
then-
eventually it's just going to take off.
When do
Okay.
we anticipate?
This is still the start of the 24-25 school year. And it's, as of right now, it's tight because of what we're combating.
Derek, will you remind me, because the wall concern does come up quite frequently.
Yep.
What are our remedies to prevent climbing? I mean, it might be easier to visualize once the
Yeah.
school's on there.
Will you back up, Bonnie, on this?
Yeah, 16 feet high.
Or just start the video again so we can see the very beginning of it. Right.
Actually using it to our advantage.
I don't know.
Right there, perfect. Okay,
I
will you
know.
pause that?
If risk management.
So like this wall right here, we're going to have a rappelling line that will...
You probably will if one of mine gets over, I'm just telling you.
Now, so there are plans for fencing that will have to be at the
That's
top
right,
of
that's
these
right. Okay.
that will prevent
So just,
that.
it will be, but, okay. Where it's tiered though, so there'll be fencing on that bottom tier, because it's like the bottom
Yep.
and then dirt and then.
And so these other areas like this, what they're going to have is cross-sectional fencing to prevent people from coming down along.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally does.
We'll have to put some signs up as well.
Oh,
Don't
yeah.
climb
It
on
is.
this. It will be somewhat of an attractive
Is
nuisance.
that an invitation though?
Yes.
I know, right? Well, I'm sure the wall itself just feels like
Yeah,
an
it's
invitation,
just
really.
a call to action.
Yes. So, but that's what's going on with the Wasatch property. The irrigation canal is completely cleared and done. We are the proud owners of a half share of the Tempe Canal Company. Right now, I've got our team looking at options to run and put in a dual system and to see what the cost would be, to where we could use that half water share to water the lawn and not use city water for it, right? And so I'm having those costs around to kind of get a cost of benefit analysis on it, but that's just in the works. So will you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so this is an update for flooding and what our department or Kyle's department, our district has done. So we've kind of worked with the city. They've got a floodplain map. The big areas of concern from what we're hearing is Edgemont and Rock Canyon and CMS are the Centennial Middle School are the ones that have the big floodplains that they're most worried about. Amelia Earhart also and Independence are also in floodplains. We ordered 60 tons of sand, 2,000 sandbags, and they've been filling them. We've got currently about 1,000 bags already filled. Their department's monitoring all the flood advisories on KSL just to know what's happening. And they also have an arrangement with the company that we bought the sand with to be able to buy more sand if we ended up running out. So that's kind of what we currently have going. Kyle's working with the city to help them understand what we have in our capacity and that we can also help if they need something too.
So, but based on, we know they're on a floodplain, but is there any kind of prediction of which one's in, like, most likely to go, or, you know, anything like that?
Everything that we're hearing is the biggest areas of concern are the foothills, right? Where coming out of Rock Canyon, our mountain face looks like, hey, there's not much snow, right? The problem is it's the mountain ranges behind that feed that Rock Canyon drainage. So while our front face may look fine, the drainage is behind. All that melt will then come down through Rock Canyon.
Okay, so then we're mostly worried about Edgemont, Rock Canyon, or Centennial.
Correct.
And do we have any type of prediction on how likely it is that they may or may not end up flooded?
There's been no prediction on that because it's all going to come down to multiple variables. How fast the temperature rises and actually how much snow dumped in those localized regions. So, because like perfect example is, you know, during the winter months as we were doing our, you know, bus procedures, there'd be days where we'd be like, hey, we got an inch, and Jason would be like, I got 6 inches up here, you guys, or I got 12 inches. So it's just, I mean, and we're talking a 20-minute drive, a massive difference in how much drops. So that's going to probably also come into effect of just what it ended up, where the snow ended. So, but that's where we've been told are the biggest concern areas are that east bench that just doesn't have the drainage systems that have been put in place for like over here and through the river.
Does this include mudslides? I've heard a lot about mudslides, that people are concerned about that.
None of our properties, the only one I would worry about with a mudslide, and I don't even necessarily would call it a mudslide from here, but it is Spring Creek, thank you, that is the one. We've just got some settling things that are going on there that we've got an engineer looking into to figure out what's the root cause of that.
And do we have, like, our families that are in kind of floodplain areas, do we, I mean, I know the city is doing an amazing job, and we just heard at our neighborhood district meeting about some of those plans, but just like a communication mode, if we were to suddenly have some flooding, like how we push out and keep track of
That has been kind of a point of conversation of, we haven't had anything put in place yet to say, hey, everybody come get these bags, but we just started the conversation. I want to say was it Saturday that we talked? Or was it yesterday that we talked? It was within the last few days that Kyle and I talked, where we talked about saying, hey, we need to probably put something together to say, if our properties are not being affected, come please take this. So.
Thanks for prepping on that. That's actually very comforting to know. No, we're looking into that, 'cause there's just been so much stuff, so thank you. Any more questions for Derek on any of the things he just explained to us? Okay, cool. Well, you could stay right there if you want.
Oh, okay.
Because it's large purchase request.
Oh, large purchase request,
and that's
okay.
you too.
All right,
Unless
so
you want to sit down too. Sure.
The large purchase requests, the big ones are going to be the Tent View, High School, bus lane, and the parking lot that we previously discussed. The total cost of that, if I can remember off the top of my head, is $467 or $8,050, but the other three numbers I don't quite fully remember.
50 cents.
465, 581.
Ah, there we go. But so there's those two costs which go into that. It's both of those. So it's both the bus lane and the parking lot that go to the 465, 587, 687, 587.50.
Would the parking lots, would they start fixing it after construction is done?
I would have to check their timeline on that, but that would it'd have to be waited till after they got cleared everything off that parking lot. So I just don't know when, if they would be saying we're going to move it and stage somewhere else because we're not needing that as much so we can get on it now, or if it would be starting, you know, in the summer after it's all clear and the project's in. So I'd have to figure out the timeline, but that is something that they're saying that needs to get done.
What's a typical lifespan for a parking lot like
It depends on how well the upkeep in terms of sealing it and maintaining it are, but I've seen a parking lot that is not on a slope, that is maintained quite regularly, last 15 years. But I'd have to go back to what we want to put in as our life cycles. We haven't dug into what our standard life cycles are yet and compared them to what the averages are out there.
Derek, there's quite a slope on that particular parking lot.
That is
Are you
correct.
adjusting that?
So that is, no, there's nothing in readjusting the slope on that.
So
that I
no
know of.
excavation at all?
No.
That one wasn't as bad as
Oh, yeah.
the other one.
That wasn't the student model.
So my
That's
other,
something we should look into though, just to be smart about it.
We can, it may impact, the problem is if you go back to
It's
that.
the driver's ed.
Well,
It's the one that's closer to the football
it's
field.
the one between
The-
the Thunderdome and the.
Yeah.
The part with readjusting that slope that concerns me is the north end of that parking lot. North end of that parking lot is the seminary building and their wall. So if we start trying to dig out that to level it, what's going to happen with where the retaining wall footing is and things like that. So what we may have to do is actually come back, lose a chunk of it, retain that part, and then lower it. So does that make sense?
Yeah. So my question too is the shops are back there,
Yes.
the auto shops, is that going to be accessible, like better accessibility for the auto shops for taking that into consideration?
And that's partly where that whole parking lot and taking all that out back where the shops are, that's part of that, is it's all that
Okay.
parking lot.
And we would work with the shop teacher, like to know what they need in terms of how we integrate their space with that parking lot. Do they integrate it right now?
It's already part of it. So
Okay.
that, the way it's kind of worked is,
Right.
right now they've lost their space
Yeah,
just
I
due
know.
to the
Yeah.
construction that's happening, right? Now, once all that is gone, then it's available for parking for them to use their spaces that they need, things like that, so.
And I saw that excluded was like soft subgrade repair, over excavation. I mean, there's a lot of things excluded from the bid. And these pricing on supplies are good for 30 days. I guess, help me understand, like, then, why we vote on, like,
So what this is just an
real
overlay.
estimate kind of?
Most likely, this is just an
to say we're gonna
overlay.
go forward?
Because what it is that with an overlay, they're not taking all the subgrade. They're not touching
Oh, I
any of the
see. Okay,
subgrade.
thank you.
And so they just are
It's
coming
the
in with overlay.
surface,
Yep.
Basically,
Yep.
okay, thanks.
Was this a thing we knew was coming, right?
We've known it
It's
was.
not included in what
It was, yes.
bid for the Tempe project.
That's correct. It was not included as part of the Tempe project bid. And being known it was coming, we've known that this parking lot was going to be needing to be replaced, but it was not
Almost
part
like
of
on
the-
our facilities, like, list of needing to be repaired.
Correct.
I mean, it's separate than like the whole building.
Correct.
So where the bus lane is, there used to be a parking lot right there next to the bus lane. Will that parking lot come back?
Inside the parking, inside of the bus loop, that I'd have to look into. I don't know anything about that one. So I'd have to double check.
That's where
and
they're
ask.
all parking right now, construction workers?
Yes.
Over their trailer.
That's where all their trailer and stuff, that used to be another parking lot, and I don't know, is that gonna go back to a parking lot, or will that?
I will have to look into that one. I don't know.
Yeah, because if that's also taking a hit from all of the supplies, et cetera, and we're also gonna end up suddenly needing to
Didn't they
surface
get
that.
rid of the actual parking lot?
I can't remember the
Anyways,
plans, but.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I'll have
ask
to
that
look
part
into
of
that
the
one, though.
bid.
The other large purchase request is cameras. And will you pull up that amount, Bonnie? I can't see it from here.
It was 128. There's several bids.
I have it right here.
224,
The actual number.
75.
Bingo, $128,224.75. So this is for cameras. We have a need in cameras, one due to our guideposts, our Safety and Security Committee recommendations, and we also have cameras that just need to be replaced, okay? What this will allow us to do is also get these cameras in order right now to where hopefully we can utilize some grant funds to cover this, right? So whether or not this will be funded by the grant or our district funds, it's needed because it's a request that we've had as a need. But the reason for it coming across to you today is We're hoping to get this in the pipeline so that way we can apply for a grant and get it done. But the risk is that by not getting it in the pipeline, we may miss that grant window. And so what this would do is if we approve it, okay, and we get it going, it could potentially alleviate some of the capital needs that we've already built out. Does that make sense? So.
Where do the cameras go? Just across all the schools, or do you know where they're going?
So it's essentially there's the guidepost report that has said, hey, look, these are what we recommend, and I believe the bulk of these are exterior cameras.
Yeah, they're exterior.
So the bulk of these are all exterior cameras, just due to the guidepost recommendation and our deficiency in that area.
So if we get the grant, then our out-of-pocket is less than what, so the number here is if the grant doesn't come through.
Correct.
The total cost.
Correct.
Do you happen to know how much you anticipate with the grant?
The grant would cover the whole amount if we get it. So.
The whole amount, this is 120, well, it will cover the whole amount?
If I remember right, the grant was about 300 grand. So this would be part of essentially what would be applied for.
Awesome. Okay, any questions for Derek on the large purchase requests? Great. Derek, just hang out.
My another one, right?
Capital outlay request.
Ah, yes, the capital outlay. So what you have before you is the finalized capital outlay request list that we're seeking for approval for our department, maintenance department, to go and start getting quotes and bids and working on all these costs over the summer and start locking in contracts to get all this going for next year. Okay, and so what you have is essentially the full list, full transparent list of what we're bringing into capital and where all the money is going, and that includes the ongoing costs that we just have to budget for, along with the requests that were submitted by all of the schools. Okay.
This is a dummy question.
You're okay.
Categories, the debt service, like for some of these, like where it says Lakeview, Wasatch, that's just our general.
I'm going to come over because it's not from the.
That's just the funds where we're taking it from.
That's the bond payment.
So that is bond payment. It's
For
just a
these
type.
things.
It's just saying what type of it is. So
Okay.
what happens is these are that's the general description, and the column that you're looking at under the type is in the accounting system we try to group things by type.
Sure,
So
okay.
we know, hey, look, this is a painting project. This is a tiling project. You know, this is so that's
Sure.
kind of what.
So I guess in my mind, so when it says debt service, though, that means the payment is towards
Debt, covering the debt payment. Yep.
Okay, so when that says like Lakeview, that's like we're still paying the debt service on.
Let me see which one that one is.
That's for the portables.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
I'm
that's the
trying to understand.
portables,
I know
yeah.
these are like very
The lease payment on the portables.
elementary questions.
Yeah, you're okay.
There are no bad questions.
Don't know unless you ask the questions.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So these cameras are different than the other cameras?
No,
Because it says every school needs 6 to 10 more exterior cameras, according
That's-
to
That-
that's part of it.
That's
absolutely.
that's the one I'm talking about, where we've got it in capital,
I'm sorry.
but
No, it doesn't. Thank you.
And that's what he's saying, if we get the grant, then we can free up this money to do some other projects that we put on the.
Have we talked about the process to get I think it's been a good process to get the things specific, not the non-ongoing costs. Like the schools all have a lot of needs, and so they've put in requests for things, and I feel like it's a new process that was put in place, and I was able to participate in some of that. I think maybe the public might want to know maybe a short version of what happened, so that and even our schools would want to know kind of what the process is, because I feel that it's a good process moving forward. Is that appropriate for this?
I can take. We got nothing but time. I mean, you guys scheduled 30 minutes for this, and we weren't supposed to start until 6:20. So if you guys want, we can like really get into
it. No thanks.
Knock on wood right now and don't jinx that.
Okay, so what we ended up doing is we instituted the Capital Facilities Committee, and what that does is It solicits essentially the requests from across the school district. Any department / school can submit what items they need. So they have concrete that needs to be fixed, or they've got walls that they need to be painted, or lighting that needs to be fixed, right? So they get to submit these requests, and what we do as a committee is we bring all these requests together, and this committee evaluates them, and they place some criteria around priority. Is it solving a safety or a security risk, right? That's your first criteria. That first level criteria really should drive a lot of things, because if it's a safety or security risk, we've just got to take care of. The next level that is considered is this an existing facility that we have to maintain, right? So this is a request for fixing or maintaining a facility that we currently have, because the last thing we want to do is ignore the facilities that we've got while we build new facilities, while we let the other ones just turn into dilapidated, right? So that is the way the priority goes, is it goes safety and security, existing facilities, then new stuff, okay? Now, and that's with our ongoing money. Now, if we need to build a new facility, that we can definitely save and use the reserves for that, right? Allocate some money aside, we reserve for that, we bond for new things. That's typically the way those new projects get done. But it doesn't mean that that's the only way they get done. People can still submit and get them done through this way too, okay? So that's kind of the process that the Capital Facilities Committee took this year. Next year it will be hopefully transition past this a little bit to where we will still go through the same process, but what will happen is everything in the district will be on a life cycle. So like your parking lots that you brought up earlier, and the flooring and the paint, everything has a life cycle, right? You know, typically things last about this long before they need to be replaced. And the research has shown by getting into a preventative maintenance life cycle, you can make your dollars go about 18% farther, okay? And so next year, what the plan is to have our capital forecasting all in place, so where you can see what it is that our deferred maintenance is based off of what we have. Then we'll still do the requests from everybody, and then we will merge the two where we say, hey, look, here is our life cycle schedules of everything. Here are the requests. Where do they all line up? And then here's our money to fund it, okay? So we'll go through a very similar process next year, but we hopefully will have a little bit more data to where we're not just deciding all of them based on the requests. So.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Any further questions for Derek? Okay, you get to sit down.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Derek. We appreciate all your work there. Awesome. Okay, let's go over the superintendent search update. A lot of this is going to be for the public to know what's been happening, because we are into the part of the superintendent search where the board is highly involved and spending just about every minute and amount of brain power we have on the superintendent search. It has really actually quite dominated our time for the month of April. So for the public to know what has happened since the last time we've updated, there's been quite a few things that have happened. First, our applications closed on March 27th, and I am happy to report that we got a very, very highly qualified, wonderful pool of candidates. And we are so happy with the amount of people that applied, and also the quality of the candidate, and that there was so much interest in the position. So we're so grateful to everyone who took interest in that and sent in an application. Starting on the 28th of March, so just the day after the applications closed, and through the 31st of March, we had 33 members from the community come into the district office, spent about 6 hours apiece reviewing and screening all the applications, giving us feedback and comments, and giving us their perspective on them, and ranking them, and helping us as board members know who we should look at as candidates. I wanted to just give a quick public thank you to those 33 members of our, what we call our Citizens Committee, who spent so much time doing that for us. We did get a chance to look at all of their comments and all of their rankings and the reviews and everything. We reviewed everything that was submitted there, and it was super helpful, and we appreciate that. Over spring break, the board members reviewed and screened applications on our own time, and then we came together on the 10th of April, and we spent quite a long day reviewing. That's when we reviewed the Citizens Committee rubrics, when we went over our own results, and when we narrowed our candidate pool for our first round of interviews. We did conduct our first round of interviews on April 13th and 14th, and then we spent another really long day narrowing again, and then in the near future we will be conducting, this is our next step, so that's where we've gotten to now. In the near future we'll be conducting site visits, which is where we will be visiting the workplaces of our candidates that are still being considered. And after that, it still remains to be determined if we feel like we may need to interview further or to go ahead and offer the position to someone, but we really are kind of in the home stretch. So we are starting to see a light at the end of the tunnel. It's really exciting. I do also want the public and everyone to know that it has also been a very, very difficult process, from the standpoint of that we had so many good qualified candidates, and the reason why it has taken us quite a long time in these executive sessions to narrow things down is because it was extremely difficult to do so based on who applied. So I hope everyone can get the feeling and understanding that it's a good, difficult. We're grateful that it's difficult in that regard, because we're just confident that we're going to be able to have a really great superintendent when it comes down to that. Okay, one other thing I wanted to do on the superintendent search update is do something a little unusual that I haven't done so far on any of these updates, and maybe a little bit fun, maybe a little bit daunting. We'll see what you guys think. But I wanted to emphasize to everybody our commitment as a board to a very, very fair and thorough search process. We're committed to that. I hope that we've demonstrated that so far by going out and surveying the public in the way we did, and spending the time that we've spent on it. And one of the ways I thought I could quantify that for everyone is actually counting up the hours that we have spent on this project. So bear with me for a minute as we're going to go through this, and I want everybody to understand that well, let's do this first, and then I'll tell you what all these hours mean. So,
and I just want to say before you put that in, I came up with probably an additional 10 hours after everybody's like, what about this? I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So we may be low. We may be lowballing it here.
So I do want to say this is not a scientific survey of hours. This is just an estimate from everybody I asked for, and there's going to be variations in this, but these are estimates. But when we talk about just the amount of time that was spent on surveying the public, that includes the actual time that surveys were taken by members of the public. That includes the staff and the community meetings that were held where we surveyed the public. That includes the administrative work that was done by Y2 for us. I've come up with a total of 590 hours put into surveying our community, which is really incredible and shows that I'm just so grateful for everyone who put time into that. We have a consultant working for us for free, which is great, because I know this will, in some people's minds, this will give some red flags about cost. But the consultant has put in a good 50 hours for us. We had our Citizens Committee come, who I mentioned earlier, spent 6 hours apiece, and so times 33, that's 198 hours of screening on applications. We have a lot of office staff here at the district that has been helping out with advertising and communications and secretarial work, and I mean lots of things, and we've come up with about 190 hours there. And then the board members have put in some blood, sweat, and tears into this. We have some individual hours along with some collective hours, but I total about 388 collective hours between all 7 of us board members. Grand total being 1,416 hours so far devoted to the superintendent search. And that, I want to put that emphasis on so far. We're not done, so we still have a little ways to go. What does all this mean? There's just a couple things I hope everyone can kind of glean from all this. I want everyone to understand that we as a board, we're committed to a fair and a thorough process. And when we say thorough, we mean thorough. If you can kind of, see how many hours we put into this collectively with everyone, we want to be thorough. We understand the gravity of this decision, how important it is. And so we're trying to be thorough. We're trying to do a good process. We also understand the importance of this task. We're taking it very seriously. I do also want the public to know that the process so far has been awesome. As a board, we are working together respectfully, collaboratively, and very civilly, and it has been a very good process for the board as far as working together, and I'm super happy with how it's turning out. So thank you to all of you board members who have been involved in that. Just thank you to everyone else who's been involved with it as well. I want to emphasize again, it's not been a small feat to get this far, and so thank you to the community for putting so much time into that. Also, I do want to emphasize that the time of the surveys that the community spent on this and our citizens committee equals out to a total of 56% of the time that's been spent on this process. So that is awesome to hear that the community are the ones that are putting in the most time on this, and I'm grateful for them. And I hope everybody understands that we said we wanted the community in on this. We said we wanted their opinions, and the surveys have guided a lot of what we've done. And so I hope everybody understands that we're not doing this in isolation as a board, but we really are taking seriously all the opinions and the things that we've gotten from our surveys and the community work. This is a little bit political, but board members have the second highest amount of percentage on hours. We have, as a board, we've got 28%. So your vote matters to everyone who's watching. Pay attention to who you vote in as board members, because this is a big deal. Also, last thing that I just want to emphasize with everyone on this superintendent search update is I hope that everyone will trust the process that we have put in place to make the best decision for the district. So we're not done, we're getting closer, but we've tried to make this process centered so that no one's opinion will trump anyone else's, but so this can really truly be a collaborative process to get us to the best outcome. So I hope everybody can trust the process that we have gone through, the time that's been put into it, and know that we are so invested and excited for this to be over, but also to get a really, really great superintendent in here to follow very closely in the footsteps of Keith. So that is my update. Anybody have any questions? Okay, that was a lot.
Awesome. Great job.
Thank you for letting me dominate airtime, even though the board handbook says not to, but I just had a lot to say there. Okay, excellent. Let's move on to the consent calendar review. Does anybody have any questions? Because we have lots of time today on the consent calendar. Okay, Tara.
What? My favorite's all of them.
I decided to ignore the executive summary since we're gonna redo that one.
Okay.
But so on the warrant summary, I was also looking at it, wondering. So the summary on page 2 really just summarizes what's on the individual warrants, which are on pages 4 to 17. And I was wondering why pick the individual warrants instead of the cumulative warrants, which are on pages 18 to 27. Because, for example, on the individual warrants, the ESS, which is paying our substitutes, the company that provides substitutes, they don't show up. But when you go to the cumulative warrant, this particular month we have $180,000 we're paying them. So
Yep.
Why pick which one, and which one's more required by law?
Yep. So really the one that is the individual is the one that is the required more like by law, and is the one that is tied to this. And the reason is because in law, the board approves every expenditure over 50,000 individually, okay? And so these are calling out all the individual expenditures that are above that $50,000, but are standard contracts, meaning they're already in place, the board's already approved the contracts, so now you're just ratifying the payments of all these things, okay? And so that's why this is tied to the individual amounts, the warrants. Now the cumulative is, like you just said, if we have an organization that we pay multiple invoices because we contracted
In a
with a
month,
lot in
yeah.
a month, all that is summing up a summation of all the checks that were cut to them. So that is the reason why there's a difference between the two. In my opinion, the cumulative one is a nice to know, but it is not something to by anywhere drive anything in terms of what we do.
So, is it necessary then?
Only if you would like it.
So it's not required by law
It
to
is
have
not
a
required by
cumulative
law.
gift? So this is good to know when we start evaluating what do we actually need by law.
Correct.
And
And what
do
is
we
useful
want,
information.
Yeah.
And what does the public want to know?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Good.
Any more questions, or?
That's it.
Okay, great. Awesome, then, let's see, let's go over the upcoming Google Calendar items real quickly. There's a lot of things. Everybody feel like they can read this? Do you want me to go over them?
You don't have to go over, but I do
Okay.
have a question.
Okay.
So I guess when we cited our schedule of meetings for the year, we didn't know when adult ed graduation was going to be, but it looks like it's the same night as us having study session at 4.
Yeah, I saw that.
So, I mean,
Okay.
we want to be done between 5:30 and 6 anyway, so are we, and I hate switching our schedule we've already noticed to the public, but I think we need to at least
Well,
discuss
normally
it.
adult ed graduation's right after Independence.
Yes, but it's not.
Todd,
It's too
wake up. I mean, normally they're like back to back. I mean, the last 2 years that I've been to it, and they're normally back to back.
Typically on separate nights, yes.
They're on separate nights.
Oh.
They
Okay.
have been back to back before, but I think more often than not I've seen them on different nights as well. So I don't think it's unusual to have them on
I think there's one year where they backed them up, and that was during the COVID year.
when we were outside.
Okay.
Okay, any questions on the graduation schedule, last day of
So
school?
is the question just, sorry, it's the question to move then
I'm
that
not
study
necessarily
session
suggesting
up
that
a
we
little?
move it,
But I think we all need to be aware of it now, and are we gonna be?
Because Meg,
okay
you
with
gotta
it?
go, we have to talk.
I know.
We just need to be aware and make sure we
Make
don't.
a short session
Yeah, make a short
then,
study
that
session, make sure
day.
we just stick to our
Well, we
schedule.
wanna be done no later than 6 anyway,
Right.
so.
Yeah, so it should be.
Adult
So we're okay.
ed, adult ed is usually only about 30 minutes long anyway, not very long.
Either way, we'll need to get to it on time, is what we're saying.
Right.
And if our study
Right.
session goes long,
Mhm.
we'll just need to make a note of that and be very cognizant of our time on that day. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Our next study session is on Tuesday, May 9th. So keep that in mind.
Is that gonna be at Centennial?
And that's typically at Centennial. We had talked about possibly
It will
going
be at
somewhere.
Centennial.
Centennial, okay. Centennial it is. And that says 9:30. Oh, I'm looking at that
And
one.
just,
Okay.
just for you to be clear, state law says that the study session should be in pretty much the same location as the business meeting. There were a number of years where we would hold the study session here, and then we would go up there. We're gonna try to plan to find a room up there like we did last year to hold the study session, and then, or we can do it in the auditorium, but we will be doing both meetings on site.
And will you explain for new board members and any public why we're having it there that night?
Yeah, it's because we have a big personnel celebration that night. We have all of the Teacher of the Year awards that are coming out of our different schools, and also PESP awards, counselor awards. I'm probably missing some, but I know those are the big three. And then we just need a place for families to be able to sit and clap for their spouses and family members.
Okay, any further questions on the Google Calendar items? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the study session.
I move that we adjourn study session.
Thank you. Motion made by Jennifer Partridge, we're adjourned.
I'm feeling this. I couldn't go. I didn't have
Jennifer,
breakfast for
you.
lunch. So I'm like, that's sorry.
It's in your food.
Oh, I just got it. I didn't buy it. Like, oh, half. I'm thirsty. No, I know.
Yeah, sure.
It's sort of trying
I was like, I continuously feed myself.
Take a little powder.
No, this is the first time ever.
Yep.
You work this week.
I took a vacation, like back when, I mean, like I requested, my girls have their little mermaid performance every single week. And usually it's just like a hectic week, and I'm so glad I did, because, yeah, I like, it, I mean, it was almost like, because I did it like in January, right, before I even knew. Every year I wish I was doing everything, and you, we get like a 2 weeks, we get spread it out, so I'm like, and I never did, because I'm only once a week, so I can usually stagger my shift to go on vacation. So I'm not, I work Sunday morning time, down before me, which is also nice, because then I have all the days off, you know what I mean? Yeah, so it's actually, that piece of that.
My daughter went to see Little Mermaid today.
They did, yeah. I did 3 and Matilda were great. They have 2 matinees, and every tonight and Saturday, they have their.
What is that? There's a kid in our school that's in it. I didn't know it was your kid.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think it's yeah, she's from here. Yeah, you know that.
She loved it.
Did she like it? They really put on a fantastic show. Ruby's been doing it for 6 years now. This is center stage but every the same week in April is when they have it. Last year they did Seussical. Yeah, they do a good job.
My daughter wants to be a part of it, and I'm like,
It's actually almost crazy to like march on, but it's only once a week for 2.5 hours. 4 to 6:30.
Ooh, I did not
Cheap
realize
car
they
club.
did.
And it's pretty affordable. I mean, I will sing its praises because it's affordable. You don't pay for all the costumes, but they're like top notch production.
Never got any more.
Yeah, like you're like, are these kids?